Imagine yourself in the heart of the Middle Ages, where the sound of battle and the clash of swords fill the air. A hero stands in the midst of the battlefield, his red cloak billowing in the wind, his golden crown gleaming in the sunlight. This man is none other than Richard the Lionheart, England's legendary king, who bravely led crusades and whose name is forever etched in history. Join us as we delve into the most thrilling chapters of King Richard the Lionheart's life, his crusades, strategic maneuvers, and heroic battles. Richard the Lionheart was born on September 8, 1157 in Oxford, the third son of King Henry II of England and Eleanor of Aquitaine. Although he was not initially the heir to the throne, fate and family intrigues eventually placed him on the English throne. Even as a young man, Richard distinguished himself with his courage and military talent, skills he later honed during the Crusades. Richard's mother, Eleanor, was the most powerful woman in France, bringing vast estates into her marriage. This allowed Richard to learn from an early age how to manage large territories. His father, Henry II, groomed him to be a strong and decisive leader. Richard spent much of his youth in France, protecting his mother's domains and mastering the chivalric and military skills that would define his reign. In 1169, at the age of just 12, Richard was formally recognized as the Duke of Aquitaine and immediately took up the defense and administration of his lands. He quickly gained a reputation not only for his knightly virtues, but also for his poetic talents, further enhancing his standing among the nobility. The Third Crusade was sparked by the events of 1187, when Saladin, the leader of the Muslim forces, recaptured Jerusalem. The Christian world was shaken by the news, and at the urging of Pope Urban III, the European kings decided to retake the Holy City. Alongside Richard, two other significant rulers, King Philip II of France and Emperor Frederick I of the Holy Roman Empire, joined the crusade. Richard immediately set about preparing his army. Under his command, the Crusaders saw innovations in both their armament and tactics. Richard recognized that a successful campaign required not just bravery, but meticulous strategic preparations. In his efforts, he raised thousands of troops and fortified the alliance between England and France. Following the death of his father, Henry II, in 1189, Richard inherited the throne and made the crusade his primary goal. In 1190, the crusade officially began, and Richard mobilized significant resources in both France and England to finance the expedition. He sold many royal estates and titles to gather the necessary funds. Richard and his army set out for the Holy Land in July 1190. The journey was fraught with adventure and danger. Storms and hostile attacks accompanied them, but Richard led his men with determination. Along the way, they captured several port cities, including Cyprus, where Richard strengthened the Crusaders' presence. The capture of Cyprus was of strategic importance. The island was taken in May 1191 after Richard's fleet sought refuge there during a storm. Isaac Komnenos, the ruler of Cyprus, treated the Crusaders with hostility, giving Richard the pretext to seize the island. Its wealth and strategic location significantly contributed to financing and supporting the campaign. After securing Cyprus, Richard quickly organized the island's administration. It became a crucial supply base for the Crusaders, and Richard's reputation grew among his troops, attracting more warriors and resources. In the summer of 1191, Richard's army arrived at the city of Acre, a focal point of the conflict between the Crusaders and Muslims. The siege of Acre was extremely bloody and brutal. The city was under siege for months, but ultimately, Richard's strategy and military prowess led to victory. However, the internal conflicts among the Crusaders, particularly between Richard and Philip the Cut, flared up after the city's capture. One of his most significant battles was the Battle of Arsuf in September 1191, where he faced Saladin's forces on an open field. The battle was crucial for the Crusade's success. Richard's brilliant tactical moves secured a decisive victory. His troops fought in open lines, then launched a sudden, unexpected charge that surprised and disoriented the enemy, leading to their defeat. The Battle of Arsuf showcased not only Richard's military genius, but also his ability to inspire and lead his men under the most challenging conditions. Following the battle, a mutual respect and recognition developed between Saladin and Richard, which laid the groundwork for later negotiations. Richard was renowned not just for his bravery, but for his strategic brilliance as well. His presence on the battlefield, rapid decision-making, and use of deception against his enemies all contributed to his successes. Richard adeptly used the defensive circle formation, which allowed his troops to effectively repel cavalry charges. He also frequently employed spies and scouts to maintain a strategic advantage over his opponents. Richard was known for his swift and decisive decision-making and his ability to adapt to changing conditions on the battlefield. His diplomatic skills were equally impressive. He managed to negotiate with Saladin for the safe passage of pilgrims and the terms of peace, which allowed Christian pilgrims to visit Jerusalem after the war ended. Richard also excelled in innovative combat solutions. He perfected the use of ballistae and siege engines, which played a crucial role in the sieges. His effective deployment of armed cavalry often turned the tide of battles in his favor. Although the crusade ultimately did not achieve its full objectives, Richard's heroism and leadership left an indelible mark on history. In 1192, after lengthy negotiations, Richard and Saladin reached a truce that allowed Christian pilgrims to visit Jerusalem freely. Richard's return journey was fraught with adventures and dangers. He was captured in the territory of the Austrian Duchy and held by Duke Leopold V. He regained his freedom only after long negotiations and the payment of a hefty ransom. This event placed a significant financial burden on England, but Richard's popularity remained unshaken. After his return, Richard continued to fight his enemies, particularly his brother John and King Philip II of France. Despite several victories, his reign ended tragically in 1199 when he was mortally wounded during a siege and subsequently died from his injuries. Richard the Lionheart's legacy extends far beyond the Crusades. His bravery and leadership made him a legend, and his name is still known today. During his reign, he commissioned the construction of numerous castles and fortresses, the most notable being Château Gaillard in France. This fortress was a pinnacle of medieval military architecture. Richard's story is not just that of a medieval ruler, but of a man who fought bravely for his principles, and whose heroic deeds continue to inspire to this day. After his death in 1199, his brother John succeeded him, but Richard's legacy remained a defining element of English history and the medieval chivalric ideal. Richard's reign inspired numerous works of art and literature, and his figure is surrounded by many legends and myths. Though his life was short, his impact extended far beyond his time, and his memory is preserved as one of history's greatest warrior kings. This was our story about Richard the Lionheart and his famous crusade. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and give it a like. Thank you for joining us.